Dick is absent, so as vice chair, I will call the meeting to order at 6:30. And Sandy, if you could take a roll call.
Mr. McCasland. Mr. Christian.
Here.
Mr. Hagar.
Here.
Ms. Maddox.
Here.
Mr. Russell.
Here.
Okay, then we need a motion to approve the minutes of March 1st.
I'll make it, Christian.
Second.
And roll call.
Mr. Christian.
Yes.
Mr. Hagar.
Yes.
Ms. Maddox.
Yes.
Mr. Russell.
Yes.
Alright. So the first thing on the agenda today is the application for a special use permit by White Rainbow Farm LLC, represented here tonight by Yuri, and I'm not going to try to pronounce her last name.
Buharovich.
Alright, so I know where this is, been there many times. So the plan that you're looking to do is to have, you know, some seasonal catering, special events, weddings, things like that in conjunction with the farm and the kind of the agritourism you're already doing there.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a couple, you know, issues or roadblocks, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, reading the, you know, the description of what you're looking to do, you know, there can be quite a number of people, you know, that you might be anticipating to be there that might require a little bit more thought and looking into before we could go. So, I mean, typically with a special use permit, there's like a preliminary review, and that's kind of what we're doing here, is to look at this and just see if this is something that we can address. One thing that Bill mentioned to me is that it's not really listed on our use chart as a permitted use. It doesn't have this particular use listed, so according to this, it says if it's not on here, then it's prohibited unless listed as a permitted use or as a special use within that zone. So I can't seem to find what this is, defined in our rules. So the planning board can approve something that's not on the list. Now, you have an avenue of going to the zoning board of appeals to go through all this stuff. So I think that's ultimately what you might have to do, just so that you can get that clarified, maybe better defined of what exactly the seasonal catering, special events, wedding events is. I don't know where Bill was telling me that it just doesn't fit any of these existing uses that we have in our ordinance, which is quite old. So these kind of things probably didn't even happen back then, and so when they developed this ordinance, there was no catering, wedding, barn type events happening. So we're kind of in a bind because it doesn't fit.
Of course.
A couple other things that we probably want to talk about. I don't know if anybody else has any, if you've looked at the plan and all that. There's a lot of people, and some of the comments from the health department, were about water, bathrooms, that kind of stuff, and that would probably have to be, in a request for a special use permit.
I just want to add too that what triggered my meeting with Yuri was a request for a liquor license. So I went out there once I got that,
Okay.
and that's when we fell into this.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Yeah, right.
So it's that brings a whole new door to this.
Right, and I see that the health department has quite a list that they sent to Bill of some concerns, which I'm sure they'll go over with you about all this type of thing, bathrooms, water. The health department is very concerned about drinking water and sanitary facilities. I know where this is. I mean, it's got some big fields. They're all very wide open, flat, and sandy. Probably for parking, it would be a whole lot different than the county fair, having parking, but that's a lot of people to cram into one little spot, and so that would probably take a lot more review and consideration than we're able to give right now.
Of course, yeah.
As you mentioned, Mr. Hager, the first question is if this use doesn't come under the zoning ordinance as a special permitted use, then it's a use variance.
Right.
So that goes in front of the zoning board of appeals, not in front of this board. So I don't know why there was even an application for a special permitted use.
Well, a permitted use requires a site plan.
So it's site plan review, but not a special.
Site plan review, right, and site plan review is done by the planning board.
Right, but do we have a site plan review application or no?
Yes,
Okay,
okay. This is a site plan review, special use permit, you'll see on the cover, it covers both.
okay.
This says special use permit,
Right.
okay? But a special use permit requires a site plan review.
Yeah, but this isn't a special use permit.
No, but I take that, I agree with that.
So wouldn't we get the zoning board of appeals to do a use variance, and then they'd come for a special, or
Yeah,
for
but
the site plan?
The problem is going to the zoning board. If the zoning board looks at this, they're gonna wanna have all the considerations for a site plan. Site plan is on this planning
Right.
board.
Well, that's my question. Do we have a separate site plan application?
It says both.
No, this one doesn't.
No,
This
this
one
one does
says
not.
special use permit, so I don't know.
It says required attachments, it says site plan, but it's not a site plan application.
Okay, hang on.
So whether there's a separate application for that, but the bigger really issue is if you do require a use variance, that is something you have to go to the zoning board first to get approval.
Sure.
And just so you know, and maybe you know this already, if you've done any kind of zoning work, whatever, some of your other projects, a use variance is not a particularly easy thing to get.
Correct.
There's certain requirements that have to be met. The burden is on you to meet all the requirements. And if you meet all of them, great. But some of them are harder to meet than others. So, you know, in applying for that to the zoning board, you have to make sure you address all those requirements that are necessary, and then they'll decide whether or not you meet them. I think and that's really the first place to start, because frankly, if you don't get the use variance, coming here doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
You really got to go there first,
Yeah.
and when you do that, that'll also trigger the application being sent to the county planning board, because your property's on 22B, it's on a state road, so you have to go to the county planning board before you even go to the zoning board to address that.
Correct.
But so it's a process.
It's a process, yeah.
I mean, and at some point in time, if you get the use variance, then yes, I think you would have to come back here for site plan. Site plan will take into account other conditions, whatever, but the use variance you have to get first, because if you don't get that, you're not going any further.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we don't have a site plan review application.
okay,
We have a special use permit application which incorporates site plan review.
okay. Just as a side note, I think we should probably create one.
Create,
It's
okay.
not a very hard thing to create, but that's something that you should have. Because again, it might, there are certain instances like this one, for example, you may have site plan review authority, but it's not a special use permit.
Right.
That's a whole different
Because
animal.
it says, as part of our review and approval of a special use. Well, we can't review and approve the special use because it's not an
Right.
approved use.
Right, and site
It's a
plan,
catch-22.
right,
Yeah.
so site plan and special use are two different things. So, to really the bottom line is tonight, we really can't take any, we can just have some cursory discussion about the application. But other than that, we can't take any formal action because it's not something we can do anything on right now. You understand what
Yeah, of course.
what I'm
I
talking about?
explained the intent of this meeting was to try and bring this picture in focus of what is the entirety of what he wants to do before it got to the zoning board.
Yeah, I personally, and again, I don't vote, I'm just here as the attorney, but I would recommend you probably get a little more detailed plan as far as what you want to do and how you're going to do it. They've noted what the county health department has noted as questions they would have, and I think we would have those same kind of questions going forward about, sanitary, water, parking,
Yep.
traffic control,
Garbage.
lighting, garbage, so, you know, those kind of questions.
Yep.
And you probably have ideas about that, and
Yeah.
that's great. But I think it's important that you put it not only on the plan, but also put it in writing.
In
Like
writing,
a
okay.
narrative,
Yep.
saying this is how we plan to address those questions. And frankly, you know, the county has done you a little bit of, given you a little bit of help, because they've touched on things that I think we would probably want answers to as well. So, when you come back to us, if you get the use variance, you'll be ready to address those issues.
I mean, I personally, you know, think that these kinds of things just aren't approved because they didn't exist back 30, 40 years ago when we wrote the variance. You know, I mean,
Right.
there should be an avenue for, you know, a wedding barn or something like that, or
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
wedding event.
and there are some out there, no question about it. I mean, again, that's something, unfortunately, we don't create changes to the zoning ordinance.
And honestly, I was using the example of the barn that just went up on Carbide Road.
Right.
That came first to the planning board.
Yep.
Got kicked to the zoning board for this reason.
Yep.
So I was following the same
Yeah,
sequence.
no, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, again, we don't create zoning, the town board, if they want to modify the zoning ordinance, that's within their province to do that. And I think they're doing a new master plan, right?
Master plan's done.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're in the
We're
process.
had our second meeting to do the zoning.
Okay, good. So, I mean, it doesn't really help you right now,
Yeah.
but ultimately, that's the process that has to be followed right now.
Perfect. Yeah.
And I think what they would want to see, we would want to see is like, you know, it's a nice picture, but how many bathrooms, you know,
Yeah.
what's the capacity of the septic system, you know, what's the distances, you know, what's the setbacks, how many feet from the road, or, you know,
Yeah.
those types of things might answer a lot of the questions that, you know, a site plan review would have, because, you know, we're looking at this and it's like, man, the parking is right next to the road.
If you're
Well,
gonna dump 1,000 people on
Yeah.
the road, you're gonna want
How
someone
many-
out there to...
Of course, yeah.
how
Right,
many
traffic.
square footage, what are you gonna do
Yeah.
for, you know, traffic control, or, you know, in and out, and what about, you know, you have 1,000 people at a music event, you know, kind of security, or what kind of, you know, issues like that, you've gotta kind of think of all those things ahead of time.
For sure.
And put them on paper, put them in a presentation kind of a thing, that's, you know, I mean, most small projects don't come with fancy drawings and presentations, but we have, you know, when people, sometimes these big companies come in to do something, they bring us their giant flip board with, you know, here's what it's gonna look like, which makes our job a lot easier,
So I'll do that.
you know, to review a site plan when you can see, okay, here's what it's gonna look like, a visual, you know, here's how far away, it's gonna be shielded from the road by this or that, and that type of thing. But I think, like he said, we're kind of at the point where we can't really make any formal
Yeah.
motions on things tonight, so we can call this a little preliminary review of your idea, and wish you well.
That's good. That's good to know.
Anybody else have any comments or questions about it all? Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's where we're at, you
It's a
know.
good first step.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah. Then we're good.
So do we have to do anything formally to like,
We really
Not-
can't, now, we really can't take any action.
Right.
We don't have anything in front of us we can
Okay.
take action on. It's just more or less just some discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'll give you a site plan, I'll give you an application for the zoning board of appeals.
go ahead and go to the okay. And then we'll jump on a call just to walk through prep for that, just to be extra sure for that.
I'll get with you tomorrow.
I'll be
I'm
gone.
gonna be in Salem in the morning, you're gonna be home in the afternoon.
I'll be home by, I have a team away. I won't be back till like 3:30, 4.
Okay.
Or Thursday or Friday, I'll be there.
I'll be out of town.
Okay, or next week.
Okay.
Is that cool? Yeah. Go ahead. Do you want me to stay, to go stay, or? No, good?
so, yeah, she was mentioning
Yeah.
something, you might also check with some other venues that might do these types of things. I know there's a couple vineyards up in Shazy, maybe they have had these kind of events, they might be able to assist you in what they were
What they
required.
did, what they did.
Of course,
Yeah.
every town is different, so they may have been approved, there may have been an avenue for them to do that, so.
Well, I think the big issue is that zoned residential, right? That's
Yeah,
it.
right, it's rural residential.
Interesting, okay.
But, I mean, you're out in the country, you know, but you are next to some houses, and, you know, it's just the way, I mean, half of Scholar Falls is rural residential.
One neighboring town, also Keysville, has a campsite,
Yeah,
and they have a pond fest every year.
yes.
And it lasts like 3 or 4 days,
Mm-hmm.
and they go through a health department permit for that, for the porta potties, for this and for that. And the noise goes to 2 or 3 in the morning,
Yeah,
and it's been a constant nightmare to try and manage that thing over the years. So, you know, putting in your hours, it's gonna go from here to here, and then is an important part too.
perfect. Okay, all right.
So, yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment. If
That's
I
all
think of
good.
something else, I can let you know.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll see you guys soon, hopefully. Thank you.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So I don't know what the zoning is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, all right, next on the agenda is Pinnacle Property Special Use Permit from Bill here. So, why do you need a special use permit?
Well, all I'm doing is, when this was approved, if you look at the old map, I was approved for all these sites back here, and that's the map that was signed. And what I've done is I've consolidated all those sites back there on the new map to where that the entire remaining properties become Site 17.
Okay.
So what I've done is I've reduced the size of Pinnacle, and this is just an amended change. I just want that put down because in the future use, if we sell Pinnacle, we may want to subdivide that out at some point in time. So I just wanted to have this updated as this is the map. It's nowhere near the volume of homes that we were originally going to put in.
So there's no change in use.
There's no change in the use, it's just change in the number of the lots.
Well, it wouldn't, so you're basically going to take all those individual lots that are already been,
Yep.
Those have been
Right.
subdivided or not?
No.
yet? No, okay.
No,
There's just
it's a
plan.
manufactured home park, these
Right.
are the lot sites,
Okay.
okay, in the park. And I put my own home back there, okay? And we do not want to develop further.
Right.
We're done. And at some point in time, if I ever chose to sell Pinnacle, I would then subdivide that out. But in the interim,
Okay.
I'll be leasing lot 17 from Pinnacle Properties like everybody else leases their lot from
Alright.
Pinnacle Properties.
But lot 17 will just be a bigger lot than it
Right,
is
but it
now.
can only have one home on it.
So what happens with all the rest of the lots? I mean, okay, so you're,
They're all full, they're
but the other proposed lots, they're just, they're never.
they're going away. They'll never be developed.
So
So what did you get approval for before?
We got approval for the whole, we got full approval for the first phase, and then we got approval for the whole thing.
Okay,
so you'll see-
no, but what approval did you get? Just a special use permit approval?
or was it a plan?
For the mobile home park,
Right, so, but it was special use permit.
yes.
So you're,
And what I'm saying is the map that you signed back in there, I can't see the date on it,
Okay, no, I saw that.
okay?
It was approved back in 2000.
Yeah, it was
Look, I
approved back in 2000 for
It was
this,
done in 1999.
yeah, for its entirety. Well, the entirety's not gonna happen, and I don't want to, at some point in the future, try to sell and with someone under the assumption that they can develop all this. I want to be able to, at that point in time when I sell, to actually subdivide that parcel out from the park.
Okay, this map, and this, but the old map, that wasn't filed like in the county.
Yes, it's
clerk.
been filed with the county.
Has it? Okay,
Yes.
I didn't see that on here. I saw where it was stamped, signed by Mr. Yando. I didn't see where it was
Well,
recorded. anywhere.
everyone who does one of the leases with us files it with the county, files the lease, and Exhibit A being the map.
so,
In my case, I will file that last map, the most current one,
This
the
one.
amended one.
so this is the amended map?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, but this map, again, should be signed, whether it's by Mr. McCasland or Mr. Hagar, just acknowledging,
The change in the number of lots.
um,
So,
The only thing I would comment on is when it talks under some of the notes, under where it says plain view, or plan view, I should say, not plain view, plan view.
Yeah,
I would recommend that like a new note be added to that, just kind of indicating what's happening here.
well, in the title block, under here, it shows that this is the update. I can't read it, so small. Here,
Well, no, it says updates, but I think in the actual notes of it should be noted what's happening.
you know, it
here.
says owner changes is the way it's identified right here.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but that doesn't mean anything.
it's engineer speak.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
Okay.
anything.
But does that have to be on the actual map?
Yeah, I think it should.
Okay, so,
So somewhere up under plan view where it talks about the lot
You'd
development.
like me
Well,
to,
it says specifically, because the notes are just carried over from the original maps. It says lots 1 through 16 to be initially developed, known as phase 1, remaining lots to be developed in phase 2, following the application of phase 1 lots. Well, that's not happening now.
I mean, that should be noted in
Okay.
there.
I mean,
I understand.
that part's not happening. So I think it just be noted, this is a modification of this prior map that's on file, reflecting that there is no further development of this project or
are
whatever.
you recording what he's saying? I'll write that in.
Say it again, Tom, just to be sure.
Well, I just think there should be a note, I mean, that sentence, remaining lots to be developed in phase 2 following the occupation of phase 1 lots, that sentence itself should be deleted. And then language should be added in its place that
Yeah.
this map, whatever the date is, this new map is
Dated 3/7/22.
is modifying the prior map dated 9/13/99 and reflecting that there is no further development planned for this property beyond lot 16,
17,
or beyond 17, right.
because it's 100% full and we're not gonna do anymore. Okay, I'll add that to the map.
And then with that map being filed, I think anybody seeing that and reading that note would understand what's taking place. I think this is.
I just wanted some clarity.
Yeah, I think it's important just to make sure that's clear if we're gonna file that map, this new map.
Okay.
So when we talk about a special use permit, what are we permitting here?
I think what it really is it's really a modification of the previously approved special use permit.
Okay.
Because we approved a special use permit back in 2000 showing, literally a total of probably 57 lots going in here. And that plan is now being modified to reflect there's only gonna be a total of 17.
Okay.
So I suppose that generates a special use permit. If that use requires a special use permit in this zoned area, then what we're doing is really a modification of that prior plan, which comes under the same type of scrutiny and the same kind of requirements.
So I'll make those changes and bring it back.
Yeah, I mean, or if the map can, if everybody agrees, we might be able to, if it's up to the board, of course,
Yeah.
approve it subject to that map being produced, reflecting that language being added.
Okay.
And then Mr. Hager could sign it, the map would be filed in the county clerk's office, and it would just reflect that that's what's happening.
Okay. I'll make the changes before you sign.
Well, anybody have any other questions or concerns about what he's doing?
Pretty simple.
You understand it all?
Yep.
It's really just a modification of a
Yeah.
prior approval that this board gave to Pinnacle.
Right, okay. All right, so, would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make it. Second.
Well, you gotta tell me what your
Yeah.
motion is.
Bill's thing.
Gotta say it out loud so
Right,
they
I
write
use all the
it.
fancy language.
Don't say too much out loud.
So if you look at the front of his application,
I think, the motion, if Mr. Christian doesn't mind me,
Nope, not at all.
it's really approving the modification of the special use permit that was previously granted to Pinnacle Properties back in 2000, modifying the plan and reducing the number of lots from 57 lots to a total of 17 lots.
Perfect.
Works for me.
On tax map parcel 245,
Right.
.-1-29.1.
And then the only other thing, Sandy, is that with the condition that the map be modified to reflect the additional language we talked about.
Right. Okay, so Larry made the motion,
I'll second.
Matt seconded it. Sandy's still writing. We'll go roll call?
Mr. Christian,
Yes.
Mr. Hager,
Yes.
Ms. Maddox. Yes. Mr. Russell.
Yes.
Okay, so it's approved, so when you get the map, and,
I'll get it
that
changed.
additional language on there, just give me a call or send me an email or text or something. I'll
Yep.
make arrangements to, although
I'll wrap it.
Vic has this, well, I can come in when you're in the office, and I'm sure you know where that is. I don't know where that lives, so.
Yes.
What is the
I can just-
stamp? Yeah.
I'm not, it's nothing I have to have tomorrow, I'll just bring it to the next meeting
Okay.
for signature.
What's your question?
Oh, I mean, he needs his map stamp, but obviously I don't know where that.
In Bill's office, back against the windows, there's a tall filing cabinet, second drawer down right in the front, where all of these are.
Well, like he said, if it's not an urgent thing, he can bring it to the next meeting when he's here, and I can sign it, and stamp it, or.
Or I can leave it out on the drafting table.
Anyway, I know where it is.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. With that.
And frankly, I mean, the action just took is not, it's sometimes unusual. I've seen times in the past in other towns where, say, a subdivision was approved for a number of lots, not that that's what happened here, because of a special use permit, but and then the applicant later on decides, you know what, I don't want to create all those lots, I want to revise that plan. So he produces a revised plan saying, I want to, say, merge like 3 or 4 of these lots into one lot. But since that subdivision was approved and a map filed showing this number of lots, a new map has now to be filed with some language saying, okay, we're changing what was approved before to this now.
Which is
So-
why
so-
I had the engineer do that.
Right, so it just makes it clear as a matter of record, this is what currently stands essentially, so.
Okay.
All right. Anyone have any new business? Nothing coming down the pike? No. Any old business? Anything that we have hanging?
I may have
I
a
have a question.
minor subdivision coming down next month,
Okay.
maybe.
Since you guys were meeting on the revisions for the zoning,
Mhm.
did anybody put in agritourism?
Well, we're still in the
Yeah.
very beginning stages.
That's
but-
where this would.
Right. But I have some, I'm working on that.
Yeah, okay, just checking.
And just as a point of reference, I represented a woman who purchased, or an entity, I should say, that purchased the old Rushford pit. And I talked to you about this, Bill, at one point. So she's interested in perhaps doing some different things with that property. It has to be reclaimed first, which, she's gonna get that thing, and most of it's been reclaimed, I think, already, according to DEC. But she may want to subdivide that property and do some development on that property. Again, it's down the pipe a little bit, but that's something you may see in the near future.
Which pit? Shingle Street or Flat Rock?
Flat Rock.
Flat Rock Road.
And you're going up the road, there's a little tiny stream, but it's right on the right past that.
I have a lady I talked to today that has one parcel split by Shingle Street. 100 acres, 48 acres on west side, someone wants to buy it, but she's told that she has to come to the planning board for a subdivision.
I don't think so.
Wait a minute, it's same tax parcel number on both sides.
Nor who goes through it.
She says that she had 2 individual tax payments that she paid over the years. She's 87 years old, so we weren't quite clear on everything. And she says, now I've been getting one, and now they're telling me that I can't sell that. So she's kind of upset. I worked with her on the phone today and played on the GIS map with her a little bit. But if it was split originally, so I put a call into real property, and Kayla returned my call, but it was too late in the day.
At some point in time, and she may not even remember this, she may have asked to be merged together because it probably would have saved her a little money in her taxes if it got merged.
That's what I told her.
Somebody may have requested at some point, that's what happened. I mean, I know just historically, like in the Adirondack Park, they treat roads as a natural subdivider of properties where oftentimes you don't have to go get, I mean, you may have to file like a non-jurisdictional inquiry with them or something like that to get approval.
It's right in our definitions, right here.
Yeah,
Any parcel of land that's divided by a public road, the land on either side will be considered a separate parcel.
there you go. So, and especially if it's as many
Thanks,
acres as you say, that's not creating a subdivision. And, I mean, it's not, they're all sizable lots. It's not gonna be an issue, so, yeah.
We ran into that years ago.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, so I think she's fine, and probably she has two separate deeds, I'm guessing, so he already has descriptions for the two parcels, and
Right.
He just got probably merged together for tax purposes, would be my guess.
And I know that, like, I changed, I had two parcels, and I was able to adjust my lot lines without doing any kind of subdivision, because it's not creating a new lot, it's simply making two lots more conforming, or whatever the case may be. You can redraw the dividing lines on adjacent parcels.
yeah, and it makes sense to her. She's got plenty of road frontage, and the lots are big enough, and really not gonna be much of an issue.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, anyone? No, anyone want to make a motion to adjourn? Nope, we'll stay
I'll
here.
make a motion.
Really?
Who seconded that?
Matt, all in favor?
Who seconded?
He did.
Matt?
Thank you.
Is that unanimous?
Yes, I think it's.
Yes.
I would say probably.
Okay.
These are extra copies, yeah. Get a,
Does what?
manual town.
Oh, yes.
Oh, the zoning manual?
Yeah. Do you have that printed or no?